Are you afraid of speaking Spanish? Well, after watching this video, you won't have to be, because we're going to give you our best tips for overcoming your fear of speaking Spanish. Empecemos.
Hola amigos, we're Jim and Mike from Spanish & Go, your resource for learning real-world travel Spanish.
And both of us know what it's like to be afraid when speaking a second language. And I still get nervous speaking to people sometimes, usually certain types of people, but I'm sure you can relate to being afraid that you're going to offend someone by saying the wrong thing, or freezing up in the moment, or that someone's going to laugh at you because you made a mistake. These are perfectly normal. So in this video, we're going to give you 6 tips for overcoming your fear of speaking a new language.
And the number 6 is listen to yourself more. I have talked about this in our podcast, in some videos here on YouTube, but the truth is that it is really important for you to get used to the way you speak in your second language, in this case in Spanish. So record yourself speaking in Spanish and then listen to it, just so you get used to the way you sound in Spanish. Something that you can also do is to talk to yourself in Spanish more. Since the moment you get up in the morning, you can start talking to yourself about your day. For example, ya me desperté, voy a tender mi cama, voy a lavarme los dientes, and then go on all day long talking to yourself in Spanish. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes, just get used to the way you sound in your second language.
Tip number 5, commit to exposing yourself to the language over and over again. You thought I was going to say something else, didn't you? But exposing yourself to the language over and over again, or any of your fears for that matter, is one of the best ways to overcome them. Think of how nervous you might have been the first day at a new job or the first day at school. Over time, these things just become normal and not scary at all. So one of the best ways you can do this with learning a new language is by committing to a set number of lessons, which brings us to today's sponsor, Lingoda. So if you've been watching our channel for a while, you know we love Lingoda, and I have taken their Super Sprint challenge myself. Now that's 90 days of classes where you can get a 100% refund if you attend all of the classes. And they also have a regular sprint, which is half the Super Sprint, 45 classes, and you can get a 50% refund on those classes. So Lingoda is an online language platform where you get to practice with real teachers, and they offer classes in French, Spanish, English, German, and business English. I thoroughly enjoyed my experience with Lingoda, and by speaking with so many different teachers, not only did I learn a ton of Spanish, but it made it so much easier to be able to communicate with strangers, basically, because I was repeating over and over again every single day, taking a class with someone new. And that definitely built up my confidence to be able to speak with different people from anywhere in the Spanish-speaking world. Sign up with our special voucher code, SCHOOL28, and you can get $11 off of your deposit. All you have to do is be sure you read Lingoda's rules, and you'll be able to get up to a 100% refund on 90 classes with them. So definitely check out the links in the description.
This promotion is really exciting because what helped me the most to overcome my fear of speaking English was actually immersion. But right now, with the pandemic, we can't go anywhere. So you have the time right now to really commit yourself to exposing yourself to the language. And this is the best opportunity.
And I know from experience you're going to be so much more confident when you actually commit to learning a new language every single day.
Tip number 4, focus on what you already know. So there might be a bunch of things you don't know about Spanish, a bunch of conjugations, a bunch of words, a bunch of structures, but there are a lot of things that you already know in Spanish. For example, you probably know how to talk about yourself. You probably know how to talk about the weather, talk about your profession, your family. Focus on those things when you start a conversation, or when you simply don't know what to say because you don't know enough vocabulary about a subject. You can also focus on making questions. For example, ¿por qué? Or ¿cuándo fue eso? Or ¿quién te dijo sobre eso? This way you can have a more natural conversation and you don't have to put yourself in a situation where you're like, oh, no entiendo. Just make it more natural, make it more fluid by focusing on the things you already know, like asking these questions.
Right, and it's perfectly acceptable to say no entiendo, I don't understand, which brings us to tip number 3. Fluency isn't about being perfect. So if you don't understand something, just ask. Fluency is more about being able to fluidly communicate with other people, not about getting everything perfect. And you should really keep in mind that no one speaks perfectly, even in their native language. We make mistakes all the time, sometimes realizing it after the fact, sometimes not, just because languages are massive. There's so much to learn about them, and no one knows every single word in a language either. So just try to focus on keeping the conversation going, and it's perfectly fine to let people know that you don't understand. Usually saying something like no entiendo will prompt them to explain it in a different way that you're more likely to understand, because they're going to use some different words that perhaps you're more familiar with. Just remember that people aren't there to judge you. In most cases, people are just going to listen to what you have to say because they're genuinely interested and they're willing to help you along as perhaps you stumble over a few things. It's all part of the process.
Tip number 2, leave shame aside and make sure you're making tons of mistakes. You have to get used to the fact that, like Jim was saying, nobody speaks a language perfectly and we all make mistakes. Now, we as adults are used to having things figured out, or we've been told that now we can't make mistakes because we are adults and we need to handle things right because, well, we are adults. And that's just not the case, especially with languages, something that changes all the time. There are things that I learned in elementary school that now the Real Academia de la Lengua Española says that are not correct anymore. And so I also have to accept the fact that I make mistakes in my own language. So make sure that you normalize these things. It's okay to make mistakes. We are all gonna make them, and they are actually a great way for you to learn. I feel like I remember the things that like hurt me the most, like when I say something and people laugh, I can laugh at my own mistakes now and it doesn't bother me as much. But I remember when I first started learning English, the things that made me feel ashamed or that I noticed people laughed about were the things that I remembered the most. So the next time I had to say that word, I remembered, oh, I said it wrong the last time, so now I can correct it and say it correctly because I have been through the experience of making the mistake.
Yeah, I'll never forget the time where I accidentally said, "What's up, boot?" to somebody in Mexico when I was trying to sound cool. You learn from these things. And tip number 1, this one is one of my favorites. Use the 5-second rule. If you live in the US, chances are you're going to have lots of opportunities to practice your Spanish in various different situations. Maybe you're just going out to eat at a restaurant and you notice that your server speaks Spanish. That's an opportunity to practice your Spanish, and don't overthink it. Give yourself less than 5 seconds to say something in Spanish. Giving yourself this short amount of time is going to make it so that you don't have much time to overthink whether you should say something in Spanish. Nothing bad is going to happen, and in a worst case situation, that person just doesn't want to speak Spanish. That's perfectly fine. Don't feel like you're rejected. It's nothing personal. It's just some people's preference. But in other occasions, you might end up making a friend, or maybe if you're a regular at a place and you use some Spanish, all of a sudden that's going to open up a relationship with the people who work at a restaurant or whatever place where you decide to try using your Spanish, where you try to use this 5-second rule. In almost every situation I've been in where someone didn't know I spoke Spanish and then I started speaking Spanish with them, their eyes lit up, they put a smile on their faces, and they get all excited because they're surprised to see that somebody actually took the time to learn their native language. So give yourself 5 seconds or less to try to use your Spanish.
Now, some of the things you can quickly ask someone when you want to use the 5-second rule are: ¿Hablas español?
Do you speak Spanish?
¿De dónde eres?
Where are you from?
Te escuché hablar español. Yo estoy aprendiendo.
I heard you speaking Spanish. I'm learning.
These are just 3 simple things that you can quickly ask someone when you know that you want to have a short conversation with them to practice your Spanish.
Thanks for watching, guys. We hope you enjoyed these 6 tips for overcoming your fear of speaking Spanish. If you have any other tips or something that has really helped you, be sure to leave it in the comments.
Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more travel and Spanish tips. And remember,
El camino es el destino.
the journey is the destination.
Nos vemos pronto.
Adios.